Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the TCP/IP Part 14 DNS Resource Records. This video will continue of the last video that introduced DNS to focus specifically on the resource records created in the zones, including the address or host records, CNAME, MX, text, nameserver records, and pointer records. If you liked my video, don't forget to click the like button. And if you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. As with most of my training videos, there are practice questions toward the end of the video. The resource record, or RR, is the unit of information entry in DNS zone files. Resource records are the basic building blocks of host names and IP information and are used to resolve all DNS queries. Resource records come in a fairly wide variety of types in order to provide extended name resolution services. The SOA record contains information about a domain or zone and is used to manage traffic between primary and secondary name servers. It includes the primary name server, the email address of the domain administrator, the serial number that tracks zone file changes, and various time intervals for refreshing and retrying zone transfers from secondary servers. The NS record stands for Name Server Record and indicates primary and secondary servers for a zone. It tells the Internet which DNS server is the authority for a domain. A domain often has multiple NS records, which can be primary and secondary name servers. This provides redundancy and load balancing. If the primary server is unavailable, the secondary server can take over. Every DNS zone must have one SOA record and at least one NS record. Note, you hear or see naming server, you should think DNS. A DNS host record, also known as an A record or address record, is a fundamental type of DNS record that connects a domain name to an IP address. The A record is found in the forward lookup zone and is the most common DNS resource record. A records only hold IP version 4 addresses. Websites with IP version 6 addresses use a quad A record instead. The default time to live, or TTL, for the A record specifies how long the record will be used before being updated. This means that when you look for a site and it gets the IP address for that site, it will cache in your system for the number of minutes specified in TTL. It will not look for the record again until that time is expired because that value is cached. The maximum length of a DNS record is 255 characters long. A domain name can have multiple A records, each pointing to a different IP address. This can be used for redundancy and fallbacks. Some high-profile websites use multiple A records to distribute request traffic to different IP addresses. A DNS pointer record, or PTR, is a domain name system DNS record that associates an IP address with the domain name. PTR records are the opposite of A records, which associate a domain name with an IP address. PTR records are also known as reverse DNS records. They are only found in the reverse lookup zones. PTR records are used to verify that an IP address corresponds to a domain name, which is a common step to determine the legitimacy of the connection's origin. This is especially important for email servers, where properly configured pointer records can help prevent legitimate emails from being marked as spam. IP version 6 pointer records are stored under the .ip6.arpa namespace instead of .arpa. CNAME, short for canonical name, is used to alias one name to another. For example, if you have example.com and www.example.com pointing to the same website or application, which is hosted by the same server. If the server's IP change, you update it once in the A record, and the alias automatically reflects the change, and it reduces the risk of misconfiguration by avoiding data duplication. In the screenshot, I have the www is the alias that points to PC2, which is represented with an IP version 4 address and an IP version 6 address. CNAME records are commonly used to redirect multiple domain names to a single website or server. For example, You might have olddomain.com redirected to newdomain.com using a CNAME record. You can also alias a service host name to an external provider such as mail.example.com redirected to dhs.googlehosted.com. A DNS-MX record, or mail exchange record, is a type of DNS record that specifies which mail server is responsible for receiving emails for a domain. MX records are essential for email delivery because they tell sending email servers where to route messages. MX records points to a domain mail server or spam email filter service. If email is sent to the spam email filter, the spam email filter will forward to the mail server. MX record contains a preference number that indicates the order in which the email server should be used to deliver email. Therefore, if you can have multiple mail servers to provide redundancy, and you can assign the same priority number to the mail servers for load distribution, or you can provide a lower priority number to the server where it would prefer to have the email delivered. MX records can specify priority values for mail servers, with lower values indicating higher priority. A DNS SRV record, or service record, is a resource record that specifies the location of servers for specific services, such as the location of LDAP or domain controllers, voice over IP or VoIP, and instant messaging. SRV records are different from other DNS records because they include a port number in addition to the server or IP address. It identifies computers that host specific services, such as domain controllers for Active Directory. It includes the service name, protocol, port number, priority weight, and the target domain or server, which will direct client applications to the appropriate servers. SRV records can point to either an A record in IP version 4 or a quad A record in IP version 6. Here are examples of SRV records that specify the locations of global catalogs, Kerberos login servers, change passwords, and LDAP servers. In other words, this is used to find the domain controllers in Active Directory. A SIP server, or Session Initiation Protocol server, is a network device that manages and routes calls for businesses that use VoIP phones. DNS SRV records can be used by the clients to locate the SIP servers. Examples of SIP server's SRV record is shown on the screen. This record indicates that the server name sipserver.example.com is listening for SIP services on TCP port 5060. The priority is 0 and the weight is 5. A DNS text record is a text-based resource record that can be used for a variety of purposes, including domain ownership verification. By adding specific text records specified by a vendor, proves to the vendor that you own or control the domain, such as the Google, site, and Apple verification records shown below. Email security to help prevent phishing, spam, and other malicious activity. And general information that can be used to provide human readability information about a domain, such as contact details. Spam management uses the following DNS text records. Sender Policy Framework, or SPF, is a type of DNS text record that lists all of the servers authorized to send emails from a particular domain. If email comes from a server that's not on the SPF record, it can be marked as spoofed by the receiving email server. Domain Key Identified Mail, or DKIM, digitally signs a domain's outgoing mail, which is validated by mail servers. Not usually seen by the end users as it happens in the background. The receiving email server will use a public key found in the DKIM text record to verify that the message was sent from a particular domain and that the message was not modified. Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance, or DMARC, is an email authentication protocol that configures a policy. It's an extension of SPF and DKIM that lets recipients that you should do with emails that don't validate through SPF or DKIM. That policy is written into the DMARC text record: accept all, send to spam, or reject the email. You usually only have one SPF record, which is limited to 255 characters. and you can only have one DMARC record. You can have multiple DKIM records, which is used if you have more than one server sending emails, including the organization's email server, web servers that send emails on the behalf of the organization, and any mail servers such as those used in mail campaigns. Question: you need to change where the outside DNS records are hosted. Which of the following records should the administrator change at the registrar to accomplish this task? Answer: NS. Question: you're moving your mail server to the cloud, and you need to ensure that the new mail server will receive email. Which of the following types of DNS records should you update? Answer: MX. Question: you're setting up DNS records on local servers for the company's cloud DNS to enable access by host name. Which of the following records should you use? Answer: A. Question: you moved your DNS servers to new IP addresses. After the move, customers are no longer able to access the organization's website. Which of the following DNS entries should be updated? Answer: NS. Question: which of the following can be used to validate domain ownership by verifying the presence of pre-agreed content contained in a DNS record? Answer: text. Question: which of the following record types will be used to define where SIP is found? Answer: service. Question: which of the following records can be used to track the number of changes on a DNS zone? Answer: SOA. Question: which of the following would be used to expedite MX records updates to authoritative name servers? Answer: time to live. Question: what type of record is used to specify which are legit servers that send emails for a domain? Answer: SPF. Question: you performed a migration to a new mail server. You changed the MX record, verified the change was accurate, and confirmed the new mail server was reachable via the IP address in the A record for over an hour. However, users are not receiving email. Which of the following should the engineer have done to prevent the issue from occurring? Answer: reduce the TTL record prior to the MX record change. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, the resource record, or RR, is the unit information entry in the DNS zone files. A DNS-A record, or address record, is the fundamental type of DNS record that connects a domain name to an IP address. Websites with IPv6 addresses uses a quad A record. A DNS pointer record, or PTR, is a DNS record that associates an IP address with the domain name. They are only found in the reverse lookup zones. CNAME, short for canonical name, is used to alias one name to another. A DNS-MX record, or mail exchange record, is a type of DNS record that specifies which mail server is responsible for receiving emails for a domain. A DNS-SRV record is a resource record that specifies the location of servers for specific services, such as location of LDAP or domain controllers, VoIP over IP or VoIP, and instant messaging. A DNS text record is a text-based resource record that can be used for a variety of purposes, including domain ownership verification, email security, and general information. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be TCP/IP Part 15, Placement and Security of DNS. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button. And if you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.